The North Sea does not forgive. There, where the wind howls like a starving beast and the cold cuts through skin like a blade, the Vikings crossed the frozen abyss without a compass, without shelter, without warmth. Imagine being on a wooden ship, surrounded by fog and ice. The water around you begins to crystallize. The wind blows from the fjords with such force that every breath feels like it's tearing a piece of your soul away. And fire, the symbol of life, is the enemy. A single flame could consume the entire ship, made of wood, pitch, and oil. Or worse, reveal their position in the darkness of the sea to unseen enemies hidden in the mist. So how do you survive when the cold kills you and fire does too? For generations, they mastered the freezing northern seas, defying storms that could destroy even modern ships. They knew how to warm their bodies without fire, how to keep heat inside vessels gliding over ice, and how to use nature itself, wind, fat, hide, and iron, as weapons against the cold. Their techniques were passed down in secrecy, guarded like sacred rituals of survival. Warmth to them was not merely physical, it was spiritual. They believed that while the body froze, the spirit burned, and that staying warm was, above all, a way to honor the gods of the north. In seas where even the sun disappeared for months, these men faced eternal winter. They slept beneath soaked fur cloaks, using the heat of their own bodies, and of their brothers beside them. They lined the interiors of their ships with layers of wool and hardened animal fat, a primitive yet ingenious technique that created a barrier against the wind. And as the sea roared and the ice cracked beneath the hull, the Viking looked toward the horizon and saw only one thing: the North, cold, infinite, and sacred. Today, we can hardly stand a night without heating. They, on the other hand, crossed entire oceans where warmth was a luxury and a single mistake was a death sentence. The North Atlantic, year 1000, waves the size of buildings crash against the wooden hull of a Viking ship. The temperature plummets below zero. Ice begins to form on the sails, the masts, and in the beards of warriors. The air is so cold that even breath turns to frost. For weeks, the crew faces the open sea. No shelter, no cabins, no walls. Nothing between them and the killing cold. The wind cuts through flesh like iron. The water inside barrels freezes solid, and yet the ships sail on. But the most astonishing thing isn't the ice, the waves, or the darkness. It's the silence of fire. No flame, no hearth, no warmth. Because at sea, fire meant death. And so, a question has echoed for 1,000 years. How did the Vikings survive frozen seas without any form of heat? The answer destroys everything Hollywood ever made us believe about Viking life. Recent excavations across 8 major archaeological sites revealed something shocking. The Vikings never heated their ships. No braziers, no stoves, no trace of fire aboard. And it wasn't ignorance, it was engineering, a calculated choice, safety over comfort, that allowed these warriors to conquer kingdoms and discover continents. To understand why, we must begin with a truth cinema always gets wrong. Fire and wood are mortal enemies. When you're on a vessel made entirely of oak, pine, and ropes, sealed with pitch, a single spark doesn't bring warmth. It brings the end. Archaeologists found the proof inside the ships themselves. Boats that had slept for 1,000 years beneath ice and mud, preserved like time capsules. The most complete discovery came from the Roskilde Fjord in Denmark. There, buried under cold water and silt, the legendary Skulldelev ships waited almost a millennium to tell their story. 5 Viking vessels, warships, cargo carriers, and fishing boats, dating from 1000 to 1070 CE. The excavations at the Viking Ship Museum recovered everything. Barrels of water, tools, ballast stones, even remnants of food. But one thing was missing. No evidence of heat, no braziers, no hearths, nothing. And that absence repeated in every discovery that followed. The Oseberg ship, 834 CE, contained kitchen utensils, but they were funerary objects, meant for the afterlife, never used at sea. The Gokstad ship, 890 CE, had storage systems for water, but not a single trace of fire. Even the most modern excavations, such as Yellowstad, 2020 to 2021, using ground-penetrating radar and 3D scanning, confirmed the same pattern. No heating system, no metal, no charcoal, no soot, nothing. So why risk the cold when warmth could save lives? Because to the Vikings, fire was not an ally. It was an enemy. The danger didn't come from ice or wind. It came from the very nature of their ships. Viking vessels were built using a technique called clinker-built construction, where wooden planks overlapped, creating a light, flexible structure, perfect for slicing through waves, but extremely flammable. The gaps between planks were sealed with wool, animal hair, and hot resin. The decks, ropes, and even sails were treated with pitch and animal fat to resist water and withstand the wind. In other words, every ship was a floating bomb, waiting for a spark. Archaeologists discovered that even the smallest fire could devour an entire Viking ship in less than 4 minutes. 4 minutes. That was how long it took for a Viking to whisper a prayer before being consumed by sea and flame. And the worst part, there was no way to stop it. Their ships had no compartments, no walls, no divisions. They were open hulls, exposed to wind and salt water. A fire aboard wasn't an accident. It was a sentence. That's why not a single trace of thermal protection has ever been found in any Viking shipwreck. No metal base plates, no fire-resistant flooring, nothing that suggested the use of open flame at sea. Even ancient texts, the Norse sagas and Icelandic law codes preserved in medieval manuscripts, confirm the same ritual. The cooks did not prepare meals aboard the ships. 3 times a day, according to the Graga's records, the vessels would pull to shore, once to collect water, twice to cook. Fire was lit only on solid ground, never upon the sea. Even the legends spoke of it. In the Erik's saga Rauda, the saga of Eric the Red, warriors cast lots to decide who would go ashore to prepare meals. It was a dangerous task, but a necessary one. No man ever lit a flame aboard an oak ship, and that's where the story changes completely. The Vikings weren't ignorant men freezing on the open ocean. They planned it. They knew exactly what they were doing. It was a tactical choice, not a mistake. They traded comfort for speed, warmth for safety, and with that, they dominated seas that entire civilizations considered impossible to cross. While the peoples of the Mediterranean built bronze stoves, shipboard hearths, and naval kitchens, the Vikings chose the cold. And that decision, the silence of fire, is what allowed them to cross entire oceans, from Greenland to North America, 5 centuries before Columbus. But one question remains. How can a man endure such cold for so long and still survive? The answer doesn't lie in fire. It lies in the body itself and in the clothing they crafted. Fabrics so advanced they would baffle even modern science. No fire, no shelter, no sun. For weeks, Vikings sailed across seas that turned into mirrors of ice. Night brought no rest, only silence and pain. The cold sank into bone, flesh, and spirit, and still they lived. How? The answer lies in a kind of knowledge that has almost vanished. The ancient art of mastering warmth through nature itself. Excavations at sites like Herjolfsnes in Greenland revealed something scientists later called medieval textile engineering. The Vikings had developed a layered clothing system, garments made from different types of wool, each with a specific function. One layer to block the wind, another to trap heat, and another to repel moisture. And here comes the most astonishing detail. These clothes worked even when wet. While modern cotton loses warmth once soaked, Viking wool maintained body temperature, even drenched with seawater. But they went further. According to descriptions in Icelandic sagas such as the Laxdæla saga, crews performed a daily ritual before setting sail. Women would sew the sleeves of the men's garments shut, sealing them with waxed thread and bone needles so that warm air couldn't escape. These weren't buttons or ties. They were sealed stitches, literally locked to the body. Each morning before departure, wrists were sewn closed. Each night before sleep, they were cut open with the warrior's own seax knife. It was an act of survival and of faith, a daily offering of time and pain to the cold that sailed beside them. Archaeological excavations of graves in Greenland and Iceland confirm it. Clothing with sleeves stitched shut, hardened wax threads, and layers of seal skin sewn over wool. These fabrics created what researchers call a portable microclimate. The Viking body became a living furnace, a biological heating system in perfect balance with the elements. But even this brilliance had limits, because no matter how advanced their clothing was, the cold of the night was a force no one could face alone. When the body sleeps, it slows, heat fades, blood cools. That's when the Vikings discovered what may have been their most human and powerful invention: collective warmth. Instead of sleeping alone, they slept together. 2, sometimes 3 men wrapped under furs and wool cloaks, sharing the same space, the same warm air, the same frozen breath. Ancient texts call this hudfat, waterproof skin bags sewn with wool and lined with fur. Essentially, a double sleeping bag, created nearly 1,000 years before the modern invention. Inside, 2 people could keep the temperature up to 20 degrees Celsius, warmer than the outside air, purely through shared body heat. When one slept, the other stood guard. When they switched places, the second man entered a space already warm. The heat never truly died. This system wasn't just practical, it was psychological. It built trust among warriors, strengthened bonds, and reduced fear. Archaeologists today call it thermal social engineering, but to the Vikings, it was simple. To survive was to warm one another. They learned to make the cold part of their bodies, and their bodies part of the ship. Every breath, every heartbeat, every layer of wool became a gear in this invisible machine of endurance. Yet cold does not forgive hunger. Without fire, there was no way to cook. And here, the story becomes even more extraordinary. Without fire, cold became a god, a deity that judged, night after night, who would live to see the dawn. But the secret of Viking survival was never about defying the cold. It was about understanding it. They learned to move with winter, not against it. And in that controlled surrender, they found strength. Excavations of coastal outposts, from Norway to Iceland, have revealed a hidden network of camps, once used by Viking fleets, places where they resupplied, cooked, repaired, and rested away from the dangers of open sea. More than 200 of these sites have been identified. They were the logistical lungs of the Norse world. There, fire lived again. On solid ground, flames warmed, dried, and fed them. The ships were hauled onto sand and covered with sails turned into tents. Families, craftsmen, and warriors gathered under the same roof of smoke and snow, the last refuge of warmth before returning to the frozen sea. The artifacts, some unearthed, iron pots, tripod stands, cooking chains, and soapstone vessels, prove that the Vikings had the technology to cook aboard their ships. They simply chose not to use it at sea. Every decision was a choice between warmth and survival, and they always chose life. While Mediterranean civilizations built furnaces and cooking chambers into their ships, the Vikings stripped away weight, gained speed, and became invisible in the dark waters. They didn't need comfort because discomfort shaped them, and it was that cold, calculated logic that carried them farther than any other people of their age. From the coasts of Norway to Greenland, from Greenland to Vinland, what we now call America. Centuries before Columbus, they crossed the most lethal ocean on Earth, in ships with no fire, no shelter, and no fear. But surviving those journeys required more than clothing and food. It demanded mind, courage, and purpose. At the excavation sites of Viking camps, archaeologists found something curious. Hundreds of game pieces, dice, carved boards, and figurines made from bone. Objects that seemed trivial at first revealed a forgotten truth. The Vikings didn't just warm their bodies, they warmed their spirits. Games, stories, songs, challenges among crewmates, all were part of a psychological ritual to keep the inner flame alive. They understood something science is only beginning to confirm. The mind influences the body's resistance to cold. The fire wasn't in the flames, it was in the mind, in unity, in shared purpose. And perhaps that's why, even without fire, the Vikings were the first to master the ice. They turned discomfort into discipline, weakness into method, cold into part of who they were. In the end, it wasn't the flame of fire that guided them across the Atlantic. It was the flame that burns within, the fire that cannot be seen, that doesn't consume wood, but consumes fear. When the wind cut their faces and the ice groaned beneath the hull, they did not pray for warmth, they were the warmth. And while the modern world shivers at the mere touch of winter, Viking ships still echo through the fjords as a silent reminder they never needed fire because they had learned to become the fire.